Here we go.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of
What's going on,
Filling
everybody?
the Gap.
Yes.
Filling the Gap.
We're doing it again.
As always, it's me and Pops, but today we got a special guest.
Yes.
His name is Tristan Upton. That's his name. For those who have not been here before, we always go through our mission statement, and this is what Filling the Gap is all about. It is dedicated to bridging disparities and creating equitable opportunities for all individuals. We believe our mission is to identify and address gaps in various domains. We strive to empower individuals and communities, ensuring that no one is left behind, and together we can fill the gap and build a brighter future for everybody.
Everybody.
For all.
For every last one of us. So thank everyone who reached out, who DM'd us, giving us some good topics to talk about. Everything we share, we pray that it's been a blessing and a benefit to you or someone you know. So continue to like, share, subscribe, continue to spread the word on what we're doing, and continue to send us those not only requests, but also those words of encouragement. So today we're going to get into another good one. Last week we talked about offense, which was really good.
Yeah, we did.
So today we're going to talk about from a man's perspective. So this is going out to all the men. Shout out to all those young, old, holding it down, OGs, young Gs, So we're going to just get into it. And one of the things that someone had suggested to us was to go ahead and just hit on some topics just for men.
Right.
So I think maybe for the rest of October, we may just do that. So we're going to start today by talking about who has been a role model for us or for you as a young man growing up. So let me point that out to you. Well,
Yeah,
we got a
mean,
guest. So guest goes first, right?
I thought guests don't go first.
They don't go
Because like,
first?
they gotta ease in.
Gotta ease in? Oh,
They gotta like ease in. They gotta see the conversation, see what we're talking about.
So what they say, beauty before age. So go ahead, you go first.
Right. So it's interesting when I see role model. I feel like whenever we like start talking about these, we kind of like want to define like what it is, who it is. I feel like for me, role model is someone who I kind of like look up to. I feel like when you're in different ages, you kind of have different people who you look up to.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, oh, this social media guy, or I watch his videos, or like your dad, or like a cousin.
Yeah.
But then you grow up and it's like, oh, I like watching like how people make money, and like you have different role models that
Like MJ is a good role model for some people who want to play basketball.
Yeah, so you got like different role models for people. I don't know. One, I feel like my you obviously it's just like like having a father figure, a dad, to kind of teach, train you. But growing up, I would say my cousin, some of my cousins who I kind of looked up to. Yeah. And wanted to be like, because you always the family that you got in around you, they're older than you, and you're like, okay, I want to be like him, until you kind of find on your own like who you are, who you want to be like, and that sort of thing. But usually family is true. And then also certain people you see, like you say, you watch movies, people play sports, you want to emulate them because of their skill or their knowledge. So they too can be a particular type of role model. Mm-hmm. I think family, people who are influencers, have been a role model for me growing up. I used to love sports, even though I'm not the greatest at playing sports, but I like sports. So for me, it was Walter Payton. Back in the day. Bears.
Super Bowl Bears. Michael Jordan, of course, Chicago, So those were kind of, from a sports standpoint, role models. So I think, too, as men, we have classified who role models would be, but it also depends on what area of our life. Because it may not be the same person for every area. Right. You see what I'm saying? So it may be me for, an emotional standpoint or a character standpoint, but it may be somebody else for sports, or for you, musician as well. So you got certain musicians, that you may want to emulate. So, I think that helps us overall define who we are, or kind of some of the characteristics we want to have as we're growing up, because a lot of times we really don't know at a young age who we really are. Mm-hmm. So it's like we're trying to find our way. Mm-hmm. We're searching to see who we want to be like. And is that part of what we want or how we feel?
Right. And I'll even bring up something, too, that's like, even when it comes to role models, I feel like with role models, it can be a good and a bad thing. Because with certain people that you have in your life, that's all you're used to, right? So if you see someone, just say the negative, thinking about something bad here, just say if you see someone in your life, right, doing drugs, in gangs, doing just a whole bunch of nonsense, if you see someone doing that, and that is the only person that you have in your life that has been a role model to you,
right,
that is the only thing you know, right? And it's kind of hard for you to get out of that cycle because you don't know nothing else. That's why like having role models, especially for guys, is very like important. You know.
Yeah. What you got to add? You want to add something to that?
I think for me, it's been my life. It's been coaches. Coaches have been just influential for me for learning how to process the game, how to process sport, but then also learning those lessons in the sport. But then just like Malik said about role models, and it can go bad, it can go well, and it's simple, but they're modeling a role.
Yeah.
And if that role in that community for those people is, I'm a gangbanger and I'm selling drugs, that's that role. If that role is I'm being a father figure to these who don't have it, that's that role.
Right.
And all they're doing is just modeling that. So it can get confusing sometimes if we just, I want to be a role model. Everyone models a role in some way, somehow. You have to take a look at yourself and say, okay, what do I want in my life? And then take evaluation of where I'm doing right now. And if the things I'm doing right now get me to that, then cool, then I'm gonna keep going there. But if I look at someone and say, I don't want to do that, I don't want to be that person, then you have to take a look at yourself and be honest with yourself. And that's what it takes when you decide, okay, I'm going to look up to this person. It requires a certain level of honesty with yourself to be able to say, is that what I want to become? If no, well, then they live their life and that doesn't affect me.
Right.
But if I look at them and say, I do want that, then I think that's sometimes where we get pressure caught up, where we say, oh, well, I want that, but I know that I'm not doing the things that person would do. And that's when we get into trouble with, I think, identity.
Yeah, man, he spit bars over
there. That was good. When you talking about the roles, like you model a role.
I was just about to say that, model the role. Whoa, I said that's
when you break the word down and you try to.
That's a nugget right there. I mean, man, that's deep. That's deep, but that's the truth. And two, part of that is the environment. Mm-hmm. You know, like you said, what do their eyes see? What have our eyes seen growing up? And for me, growing up, you know, thank God for both parents in my house. So certain things that I did see and did not see. So when it came to the person modeling that role,
right,
it was my father, or my grandfather.
Right.
It was me going to church and having a reverence for God. Mm-hmm. It was my uncles. It was some of my cousins that were in my life. So when you are surrounded by people that will influence you to live a certain lifestyle, it makes all the difference. I think as the generations have evolved, what has hurt, in my opinion, this generation, Melody's generation, is social media, to the point where the role models of those parents or grandparents in the house have now changed to those who are living a fake life on TV,
right?
Who got the the housewives, all these reality shows, all these, everything that's out there that's not real.
Right.
But those have now become the role models for a generation who don't even know who they are.
Yep.
Right.
And it's now causing more confusion in their own lives than it should be. So, backing it up, when I was growing up again, all that was out there, but we were limited on what we could watch on TV.
Yeah. Right.
Parents on there, 1, 2 TVs in the house. You're not touching that TV. You're not touching that knob. We didn't have a cell phone in our pocket or a laptop in our room. So us being exposed to negative role models was limited.
Right.
And I think now it has flipped to it being fewer positive role models and more negative role models in the eyesight of a whole generation that's lost.
Right.
Yep.
I was gonna say it's crazy because what I feel like a lot of the people who are watching these, they don't understand that these are all characters, right? You got to think everything that is, on TV is powered behind business and money.
Yeah.
Right. You got to think there is someone going out, a producer that's like, this is what we need to make this show successful. Right. I need you to play this character. Like, I promise you, the people on these reality TV shows, they maybe are like that, but most of them are just like an over exaggerated personality that they need for TV to be good, right? And it goes back to what you said. It is confusing, right, for these people, because they think, oh, I watch Tisha on Housewives every day. You know, this who she is. This how she is. I want to be like that, but it's like you don't know her. Like, you don't really know if she really like this or if this is like for show. So I'm like, I agree with like it. It's confusing, and it's like leading a lot of people down a very dark path. Especially stuff that I've seen of just influencers of like this. It was like this like lonely girl type of feel. Like, there's these different aesthetics that people try to strive for because they've seen it worked for someone else to get to where they are. So a lot of people try to copy that, and it's like, what happened to you being you? Like, what happened to you having your own identity and like walking in your purpose? But it goes back to, a lot of people don't know that, and they look to social media to try to find that when that's not the case. Whereas like, no, you should get with God so he can help you to show you what he needs you to be doing and not what you need to be copying someone else do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you are trying to figure it out and you're like, that's something that I want what this person has, and I think they did it this way. Right. So I'm gonna try to do that. I mean, it was even stuff I ran into at school. I mean, I ran into school with, you know, even with watching you do things, I was like, oh, like I want kind of the influence that you had. I wanted the kind of like the power that I saw you have. And I was like, oh, well, I think he probably does it this way. But like the way that you got there and the call that God had in your life is different. And I can't walk those same steps.
Right.
It has to be different. But if we are just going in that blindly of like, if that's just the end goal, then that's where you find issues.
Right.
When it's, okay, like, what's the process? What life experience led me to this? What did I see God do in my life? They led me to that point versus I just want to get there right now.
Right.
I mean, that's just a part of just like now culture anyway. If we want to blow up overnight, we want to immediately be in that dream job, like right out. It's like, you're going to have to grind a little bit. You're going to have to fight through a little bit of adversity to see eventually what that life path ends up being.
So I guess my next question would be then, you know, so what happened to us as men throughout the generations that we kind of, not all of us or not everyone, but you can see there's a gap that you have some that still reverence a mentor or a coach, and they're willing to do what needs to be done to grind it out and to take the time to be successful, as opposed to those who see the coach or the mentor and think they're better than them and they want it right now. So where did the separation come? I mean, can anyone shed light on that?
He coaching. So
for me, I think it's both. I think it's both. It both falls on the mentor, leader, coach.
Okay.
And then also falls eventually on the person who's being coached or being mentored. Because I know in my experience with coaching, with guys, it's harder to coach them because there's a certain level of ego, generally speaking. Now there's some that don't, there's some that get it, and there's also some that you can kind of win over and eventually destroy that ego. But then the flip side of that is there's also men who have the ego who are trying to coach, and so when you butt heads with those who you're trying to coach, it doesn't help anyone in that case. And it comes from a good place of the mentor, leader, coach. Like I know the way. Like I can help you,
right.
But delivery is off. And then when delivery is off, if you're dealing with those who are inexperienced, whether inexperienced with faith or inexperienced in business or inexperienced just like in their mentality, they're going to receive that the wrong way. They're not going to listen to what's being said. They're only going to hear how it's being said.
Right.
And that's where you lose people. So it comes from both of the leader trying to approach it from a different angle, saying, okay, if you were trying to teach something, you know it forwards, backwards, you know all the different ways you can attack it. So if one way isn't working, you can look back and say, okay, this person isn't receiving it the way I'm. And at the end of the day, like if I'm communicating something to someone and they're not getting it, that's on me as a communicator.
Right.
I can't force them to understand something if they don't understand it the way I'm communicating it. So we can get fresh all we want, but at the end of the day, it's okay. I have to take a step back. If I know how all of these ways can work, or maybe this approach works better for this person. And so it takes both of them just letting their guard down a little bit, just saying, hey, I'm here to help you.
Right.
And when you understand that, that is when guard gets let down a little bit for those who you're trying to coach and lead. And it gets easier for them to receive it that way, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that, because that reminded me too when we coached the basketball team last year.
Right.
Went undefeated all the way to the championship, and one of the things we had to learn was every young man had a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every young man had a different background. We had probably the one of the most diverse teams I ever coached. I mean, very diverse. So now you're looking at different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at different morals. Some were raised more stern than others, and just finding that balance with the players. But then also what helped us too was that many of them did come from a strong background as far as a mother or father or a guardian or somebody being in their life to hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. And I think too, as young men, we have to stay in a place of accountability in order to continue to stay on that straight and narrow. Not saying that we're buck wild,
right?
But if we are not pushed to the greatness that's in us, like you said, it's so easy to go to the left or to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that most of us, from a child on, we are looking for something. Ultimately, we know that's number one because we believe it's God, to fill that void. But outside of God, our purpose.
Yeah.
God put us here, but what's our purpose? So we connect with people to try to find that purpose, to guide us to that purpose, whether it's sports, whether it's ministry, whether it's business. But there's a void in us that we're longing to feel, or maybe even a marriage, that we desire. So let me ask this question. So I got these two young men here. Do you think that it's important for every young man to have a mentor or a coach or someone or a role model, since we're talking about role models? Do you think it's important that every young man have that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I go back to what you just said, accountability.
Okay.
Like you need someone who you can reach out to have even check in on you on, like, if there's like things that you're not communicating properly on, or they see that you're going through stuff, like you got somebody who can check up on you. Like, I think it sucks when you feel like you have to go through something alone, and not really have anybody there with you. And I feel like a lot of the young men who kind of struggle with that has been through some type of hurt, whether it's with a father figure or someone in their life, and they've been hurt, and it's hard for them to allow people in to kind of help them. Like that we've seen even in coaching basketball in certain situations. But for sure, I think everyone should have a mentor just to learn, even if it's some place that you want to go, or a place that you're trying to grow in yourselves, whether it's spiritually, physically, naturally. If you're not seeing the results that you want to see in the gym, you go get a trainer, or different things. Like if you want to be a better basketball player, you go train with someone. Like you have someone there who is able to help guide you and get you to the place that you want to go. So I definitely agree. It's like, for sure. A lot of young men should look to find a mentor if they don't have one already.
Doesn't matter what age.
It depends, right? So you're talking about the age of the mentor.
Well, I'm talking about in life general, because how you have life coaches or mentors.
Yeah.
So when I say age, not just a young person, but even us, even your age, even my age, should we always continue to have somebody that keeps us accountable, because we're living every day, we're striving every day to be a better person.
Yes.
So when I said at what age should it stop, or should it not stop?
It shouldn't stop. I mean, out the womb. Like you got somebody ride or die for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a certain age. I feel like you can always grow and learn, whether in whatever way, whether it's physically, spiritually, in business, and whatever. There's people who are higher than you, and you see them, and it's like, oh, I want to be there. It doesn't matter what category, whether it's music or sports, music. It doesn't matter. I think I said music twice.
You did,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
Yeah. I realized that. It doesn't matter.
What do you think, Tristan?
No, I 100% agree that any age, someone to walk with. I mean, obviously, the older you get, the harder it is to find necessarily people who are older than you,
Right.
just because that's just how math works.
Yeah.
But
Look at them dropping at the bar like that.
Right.
But having someone who is either knowledgeable or is mature in whatever field that is. You could be, especially like if you are a new Christian, but you got someone who may be younger than you, but they've been serving God for 40 years. It's like, all right, well, they may be younger than you, but in what you are going through, they are more mature than you. You could be changing careers, and you could be 45 in a new career, but you've got some young buck who is been very successful up to his career. It's like he may be younger than you, but in this field, he's more experienced than you. So I think the age is irrelevant. I think as long as you have someone who you can go to, you can have someone who can hold you accountable, someone who you can grow with and help walk with you in whatever it is, whatever field that you are contending in, then it's crucial and it's absolutely necessary.
I'm about to play devil's advocate now because he says something, so we're gonna hit on this and then we'll probably close it out until next week. But with that being said, do you think that it's more challenging for for older men to humble themselves to a younger man to get that wisdom and knowledge that they need?
For sure it is.
Absolutely. And that just goes to what I mentioned earlier about you need coaches in the first place. There is that certain level of pride and ego, and that's where people get caught up, where it's like, that's just an example in reverse of coach to athlete. They think that they don't necessarily need to because, well, I'm older, but age doesn't equal maturity, doesn't equal experience.
True.
So you have to go through those things to be able to process and handle whatever comes at you in that field. So
yeah.
Pride is a big issue when it comes to, he hit it on the head. Literally, that's what it is. It's just like, you got to just operate in humility. Like, if you know you're not qualified in a certain area, but you got somebody who younger than you is, then there has to be some type of submit, when it comes to that, and just putting all ego aside. That's like, dang, he knows some stuff that I don't know, despite how many years I've been living and all my experiences. He got something that I need, right? So let me just submit. And sometimes I feel like it's probably hard, to do that. Have you ever had to do that before? We're gonna put it back on you.
Have I ever had to do that? Yeah, it's been a few times I've had to do that. But I've always had in my spirit, with the word, to just remain teachable. Right. Because that's what Jesus said. And then when I think about it, and you made a good point, when you look at growth, matter of fact, we're in a place now because we're taking some courses and other things for business, but yet it's a younger person that's, teaching the course, and because they got that wisdom, they got that knowledge, and they're very successful. I'm talking about 6 figures, 7 figures. So when you have someone before you that's doing what you want, you have to be humble enough to know that, hey, I can't get that by myself, and I don't want to take no longer than I need to get there on my own. When someone who has already done it can just give me the wisdom to do it much faster. And I think that's part of the challenge too, just getting the wisdom to do it much faster. And that's what I love about Solomon. Solomon was young as a king. So people came to him just for his wisdom at a young age, as a teenager. So, the word speaks for itself. I think that as men, part of our challenge is to help this generation know that, number one, you got to be accountable to somebody. You should want to be accountable, whether they're older than you or younger than you, because we all need each other. This world is not an easy world we're living in. It's definitely not a fair world we're living in. Right. So we definitely need to, number one, support each other, and then two, just to build that community. Because like you said, it's something you may have that I need, and vice versa. But in order for that to happen, we got to tell pride where to go. Right. Yep. And not hang around people that will continue to stroke our egos. You know, so that to me that makes a big difference.
It's gonna lead you astray.
Yeah, lead you astray for real. So
how much time do we got left?
However long we want, but I know we don't want to be too long, so it'd be, you know, to continue. Unless you got somebody you want to drop before we close out.
Well, no, I always like want to hit a kind of biblical Jesus perspective, like, how do you feel like, you know, from just knowing the word, that you can see the way Jesus lived his life, right? All knowing, all just wisdom, bars, right? Parables left and right. Don't nobody know what they mean, but he hidden, he not missing. When you see the Pharisees, you know, see Jesus as young as he was, talk about, you know, the different things that he's talking about to help people. Like, what do you think, you know, their reaction was? Like, I know what it was, and I know how they were towards him, but maybe you can, like, spread more knowledge, like, when it comes to, like, the Pharisees and Jesus and, like, wisdom. You know what I mean?
Man, I think we already hit it on the head. You know, I think we all covered it together, and it's really just your environment, and then it's pride, because that's what the Pharisees and Sadducees operated in, and it was a religious spirit. So when you think about when Jesus came as young as he was, they didn't want him coming in and messing up their good thing. So not only are you dealing with, you know, spirit religion, dealing with pride, but now you're dealing with greed, because they got a good system in place, that they're making their money, that they're in control, and they have the people brainwashed. They don't want to lose power. And it wasn't until when you fast forward to Paul was Saul before his name was changed to Paul on this Damascus road. He was along with them. You know, he was brainwashed. He was definitely arrogant. You know, he was cracking heads of Christians. Until he had his experience on that Damascus road when he had that encounter. So part of our challenge is that we need to speak life into young men until they have an encounter, whether they know God or not, whether they know Jesus or not, but they need to know who they are, and that they are kings, and that they are royalty, and that they are great, and that they do have a purpose. Because that's what the word says. How can you even share the good news of Jesus Christ with them if they need to be clothed, if they're hungry? You know, so we got to meet our young people where they are, our young men where they are. If they're crying, find out what's going on. Listen to their need. You know, if they're hungry, give them something to eat. So that's where it begins, you know, to build them up there, because so many young men have been torn down. When I was in the school system with mental health, some of the conversations I heard and the things that were happening was just unbelievable. It's because of a lack of support and a lack of identity. No life being spoken into them, no confidence being put into them. To the point that many of them want to take their own lives, and it shouldn't get to that point. And part of it is because they don't know God. They don't have that relationship. But, you know, going back to it again with the Pharisees, it's just religious spirit, pride, greed, selfishness. And they didn't want Jesus coming to change the heart and minds of people. You know, that's kind of where we are now.
Yeah, that's good.
Different time set, but same spirit. Same spirits, because when the one leave, it come back with 7 words. So it's like demons and spirits everywhere, but it's the same, different time, same things we're dealing with.
That was good. I hit it on the head. Until next week. So how can they find you? How can they follow you on social media? Y'all can follow Fill in the Gap everywhere on TikTok, Instagram. Subscribe to YouTube.
Do that.
Mine is Malik_Brookins.
Clarence_Brookins. And
you find me on Instagram at Upton12.
Upton12. There you go.
What you about to say? I thought you were about to say something.
I said to next week.
Until next time.
We see y'all later. Be peace.